the scrotum, testis, and epididymis. First of all, the scrotum. The scrotum is an outbouching of the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall. It is derived from the layers of the anterior abdominal wall. It is derived from the same layers of the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall. It is formed during the descent of the testis. This is the testis. Its original position is in the lumbar region as it descends down through the pelvis, through the inguinal canal to its final destination. It will drag with it part of the lower anterior abdominal wall to form the scrotum. So the scrotum, it is an outbouching of the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall, and it is formed from the same layers of this anterior abdominal wall. What are the layers of the scrotum? From superficial to deep. First of all, we have the skin. Next, we have superficial fascia. Here it is replaced by a muscle, special type of muscle called dartos muscle. Next, we have the membranous layer of fascia, which is called Colles fascia. Colles fascia, which is the same as that of the membranous layer of the anterior abdominal wall. Next, we have the spermatic fascia, what we call the spermatic fascia. We have the external spermatic fascia, which is derived from the aponeurosis of external oblique, cremasteric fascia, which is derived from the internal oblique, and we have the internal spermatic fascia that is derived from the transversalis fascia. Next to these three layers, we have what we call Tonica vaginalis. Tonica vaginalis, this is a serous membrane. Serous membrane that is originally derived from the peritoneum. It is of two layers. We have parietal layer and we have visceral. Parietal layer lining the scrotum from inside, and the visceral layer, it will cover the testis directly. In between the two layers, in parietal and visceral, we have cavity. First of all, we will study the skin of the scrotum. What are the features of the skin of the scrotum? First of all, it is thin, wrinkled, pigmented. It have a deep color than the surrounding nearby skin, and it forms a single pouch, and it characterized by presence of raphe at the midline. Raphe is a slightly raised ridge in the midline, and it indicates the line of the fusion of the two labioscrotal swelling. In male, the two labioscrotal swelling will fuse at the midline to form the raphe, while in female, the two labioscrotal swelling will remain separated and it will form the labia majora. The labia majora is the analog of scrotum in male. The labia majora in female is the analog to the scrotum in male. During fetal development, here we can see these are in yellow color, these are the labioscrotal swelling. In male, they will fuse at the midline to form the scrotum, while in female, they will remain separated to form the two labia majora. This is the scrotum, and we can see that the superficial layer of the superficial fascia, which is fatty in the scrotum, it will be replaced by a special type of muscle called dartos muscle. The scarpous fascia, which is membranous layer of fascia in the scrotum, it is called Colles fascia. This Colles fascia will continue in the perineum to be attached to the perineal membrane and the ischiopubic rami. What is the lymphatic drainage of the scrotum, skin of the scrotum and the tunica vaginalis is to the superficial inguinal lymph nodes. What is the nerve supply of the scrotum? As we mentioned previously, that's the scrotum. Scrotum is an outbouching of the lower part of the anterior abdominal wall. It will drag its nerve supply with it also. So it is supplied in part by the first lumbar nerve, L1. From this nerve, ilioinguinal nerve, which have a root value of L1, genital branch of genitofemoral nerve, also L1. Posteriorly, the scrotum supplied by posterior scrotal branches of S3 and perineal of the perineal nerve, and the perineal branch of posterior cutaneous nerve of the thigh, S3. How the tunica vaginalis is formed? Formation of the tunica vaginalis, as we said, that the testis, its original position is in the lumbar region on the back. It descends down with further growth, it descends down through the lower part of the abdomen to its final destination in the scrotum. As it descends down, it will drag with it a pouch of peritoneum, containing a cavity. With further growth, this pouch will be separated from the original peritoneal cavity، يعني راح تنقطع عن الperitoneal cavity الأصلية. And this connection will be obliterated. This new cavity that is formed is called the tunica vaginalis. Tunica vaginalis that lies nearby to the testis. Here we can see this is the testis as it descends down, guided by this structure which is called gubernaculum. It will drag with it a pouch of peritoneum. This pouch of peritoneum will be separated from the original cavity, original peritoneal cavity, and it will form a new sac surrounding nearby the testis that's called tunica vaginalis. It have a visceral layer that's in direct contact with the testis on the tunica albuginea, and it have a parietal layer lining the inner surface of the scrotum. This is the tunica vaginalis, as we said before. It have a parietal layer and it have a visceral layer, and here we have a cavity in between. If this cavity of tunica vaginalis is containing fluid, we will call it hydrocele. So hydrocele, it means that the tunica vaginalis is distended or filled with fluid. We need to drain this fluid. We can pass a special type of instruments called the trocar. So what are the anatomical layers traversed by a trocar to drain this hydrocele? First of all, skin, dartos muscle, membranous layer of fascia, that is Colles fascia, external spermatic fascia, cremasteric fascia, internal spermatic fascia, until we reach tunica vaginalis, which is the visceral layer. Then we will reach to the cavity of the tunica vaginalis and drain this fluid. What are the contents of the scrotum? Content of the scrotum contain the testis, the epididymis, and the lower ends of the spermatic cord. So it contains three structures: testis, epididymis, and the lower ends of the spermatic cord. First of all, we will study the testis. Testis is a mixed gland. Mixed gland, it means it have both exocrine and endocrine portions. Exocrine portion will produce sperm, while endocrine portion will produce male hormone, which is the androgen. It is oval in shape, firm, mobile, and lying within the scrotum. Usually the left testis usually lies at a lower level than the right one. Each testis is surrounded by tough fibrous capsule that's called tonica albuginea. Tonica albuginea in Arabic معناها الغلالة البيضاء. From this tonica albuginea, from the inner surface of this capsule, which is the tonica albuginea, there is a series of fibrous septa, يعني حواجز, that will divide the interior of the organ into lobules. into lobules. Here we can see this is the testis covered by thick fibrous capsule called tonic albuginea. On the tonic albuginea we have the layers of tunica vaginalis, which is the visceral layer of tunica vaginalis, visceral layer of tunica vaginalis, and we have parietal layer of tunica vaginalis. From the tunica albuginea, from the inner surface of tunica albuginea, it will send fibrous septa that will divide the testis into lobules. These are the lobules. The next structure that is contained in the scrotum is the epididymis. Epididymis. First of all, it is a firm structure lying posterior to the testis. It is separated from the testis by a groove-like what we call the sinus of the epididymis. Sinus of the epididymis. It is a groove that lies between the testis and the epididymis, and it is lined with tunica vaginalis. That is visceral layer of tunica vaginalis. The epididymis consists from a head, you will expanded upper end, also to have a body, and a pointed tail. From the lower end of the tail, we have the emergence of the vas deferens. This is the vas deferens emerging from the tail of the epididymis, and it lies on the medial side of the epididymis. What are the functions of the epididymis? Provide a storage space for the spermatozoa, allows the sperms to mature, absorption of extra fluid, and the addition of substances to the seminal fluid to nourish the maturing sperms. So it's an aid in the maturation of the storage and maturation of sperm. What is the blood supply of the testis and the epididymis? It is supplied from the testicular arteries at the level of L2 directly from the abdominal aorta. It runs a retroperitoneal course passing through the inguinal canal to supply the testis and epididymis, while the venous drainage is through the pampiniform plexus. First of all, it is extensive plexus of vein that then it will unite at the deep inguinal ring to form a single vein on the right side to drain into the inferior vena cava, and on the left side to drain into the left renal vein. What is the lymphatic drainage of the testis and epididymis? We can see here that it is drained to the abdominal lymph node, يعني lymph node inside the abdomen that is called lumbar lymph node or the para-aortic lymph nodes. Not like that of the lymph node that drain the scrotum, which drain to the superficial inguinal lymph node. Here we have abnormal condition that when the testis doesn't descend to its normal position in the scrotum, it might be trapped anywhere during its course of descent. 4 degree, we call it 4 degree of incomplete descent, يعني نزول عدم يعني غير كامل للتستس. First of all, number 1 in the abdominal cavity, number 2 in the inguinal canal. Why? Because we said that it passes through the inguinal canal to reach to the scrotum, or in the superficial inguinal ring, or in the upper part of the scrotum. All these regions regarded as incomplete descent of the testis. Or another condition, another abnormal condition, which is called maldescent. Maldescent, it means that the testis is in abnormal position. Abnormal position. First of all, number 1 in the superficial fascia of the anterior abdominal wall, above the superficial inguinal ring. Number 2 at the root of the penis. Number 3 in the perineum. And number 4 is in the thigh. All these 4 positions are abnormal position for the testis, and it's regarded as the types of maldescent of the testis. Lastly, we have what we call the climatic reflex. Climatic reflex, as the name indicates, that is, it's related to the climatic muscle. This reflex occurs when we scratch the medial surface of the thigh. It will lead to the elevation of the testis and scrotum upward. يعني reflex elevation of the testis and the scrotum upward. This is facilitated by the genitofemoral nerve. Why we call it genitofemoral nerve? Because it have a genital branch and it have a femoral branch. The femoral branch supply the medial side of the thigh, and the genital branch supply the climatic muscle. That form one of the layer of the spermatic cord and the scrotum. When we stimulate the medial side of the thigh through the femoral branch of the genitofemoral nerve, there will be stimulation to the genital branch that supply the climatic muscle, and it will facilitate this reflex lead to contraction of the climatic muscle and the elevation of the testis toward the body in order for protection and to preserve heat. Thank you.